Welcome to Behind the Frame, the podcast where I sit down with licensed art therapist Sarva Rajiv to talk about how art can be used to deal with trauma. Then we hear from Kira and Margot to discuss how different forms of art have helped them with stress and processing emotions, while showing off art they made for the podcast. This is Behind the Frame. This episode of Contact Behind the Frame is brought to you by Sunnyside Art Supplies. To sketchbooks and resins, let Pat and Cheryl Rosum help you on your art journey today. Sunnyside Art Supplies, your friendly neighborhood art store located in the heart of Kensington. Do you think art therapy kind of is a little bit more effective than talk therapy, especially for people who can't really, people who kind of struggle to kind of communicate what they're feeling?
This is a great question. So, for people with trauma, complex trauma, dissociative trauma, all of this makes it a lot more difficult for you to cognitively put together and frame thoughts and sentences and experiences to express them. Art therapy is a great approach for this because it is nonverbal means of expression and processing. You can do drawing, painting, sculpting. People can tap into their emotions, experiences. You can access and release traumatic events and memories through art making. And all of this happens in a safe and controlled environment. So that means that at no point are you left abandoned, nor do you feel like your hand isn't being held in the process. Useful for people with a background of complex trauma or dissociative trauma or difficulty verbalizing your trauma to kind of explore art therapy. And it's definitely helpful, definitely useful because words fail us all the time.
Well, especially when you're considering artists throughout history, like Van Gogh, who put a lot of his pain into his artwork. And then I even think that Bob Ross a little bit. He did, doing that. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be art and for it to be beautiful.
I love that you brought this up because there were a lot of artists that used art as a coping mechanism for a lot of what they were experiencing. I think Vincent van Gogh was one because his artwork reflected his mental health struggles, his emotional pain. And there was also there was this artist with the eyebrows. Frida
Kahlo.
She is my most favorite example when it comes to this because she was gifted to begin with. And I have obviously gone into super detail understanding her work, but she created work especially after her bus injury when her spine was incapacitated or no longer working the way it should. She was kind of bedridden, but she created this artwork of her face on a deer's body with arrows sticking out of its back. And I don't know if there can be any clearer communication for what, she was experiencing because there is a pain, there is communication that there is a non-identification with the body that's happening. There's pain in the body that's happening. And all of this is being captured in the image and conveyed in the image as well. So not just this one example in particular, but all her artwork. If you look into it, the one where I think she's opened her heart and she's sitting with herself. If you look into each one of those images, there is so much that you can learn about what is happening in their emotional experience, what's happening in their mind, what they're going through, what they're thinking about. Because when they don't, it's difficult, you don't want to keep talking about it all the time. It's like your life has changed. You're coming to terms, grappling with a new identity or grappling with a new way of existing in this world, and art was her crutch.
Yeah.
And that was the best example, if anything, of how art can be so hand in hand in the process of recovery for people who are curious or inclined and wouldn't prefer talking.
That is everything that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much, Sarva, for your time. I really appreciate it. So one of the things that my therapist said is it's about more than just like paint on a canvas or like sketching or drawing whenever you're feeling sad. They did a study where when they were in India, where they did their practicum, they were with a group of men, and a lot of men felt kind of emasculated by like painting, drawing, things like that. So the therapist had to kind of meet them in the middle and bring in like clay and things where, you know, they can get their hands dirty. Do you feel like for you, art has to be more than just drawing pen on paper? Kira, what do you think about that?
Honestly, it kind of depends on what I'm creating. If I'm creating something specific for like my emotions and whatnot, then yeah, it has to be more. I can just pick up a pencil and just start drawing whenever I want to. I don't have to be in a specific mood. But it definitely, when I am in those moods where I just need to get the emotions out, drawing and really does help. I don't know.
Margot, I know for you, you brought in origami.
Yeah, I like to do little origami cranes because I don't know why cranes, but maybe it's because of the Thousand Crane story grants your wish. But yeah, whenever I'm just feeling down and I don't have access to like video games or manga, I just grab my origami paper and start making cranes.
And have you ever, when you're making the crayons, do you ever kind of just like zone out and do it automatically, or do you feel like it helps with like stress and processing?
Sometimes I also feel like it also helps with my manual dexterity because you really need to be patient with yourself when you're folding things.
Most of the time when I am in a like not so positive mood, I definitely like to use clay a lot more just for the ability to like kind of squish, and it just like helps get my frustrations out. And then I just create something from there. So the initial molding of it before it becomes a final product definitely helps with my stress and anxiety and anger and whatnot.
I feel like even destroying art itself can be a form of art. Like you see people who in Japan they have sculptures made of their enemies, and then they slap the sculpture and let it harden. And have you ever felt like after you created something, oh, I don't really resonate with that anymore, and just like destroyed it or like deleted it or anything?
No, never.
I don't think I think I used to when I made a crane and it just didn't turn out like a crane. I just like bunched it all together and just screamed at it and threw it into the recycling. That's I'm like, you didn't turn out to be a bird. Boom.
For myself, honestly, I hold every single piece of art that I've ever created dearly to my heart, no matter if I no longer identify with the feelings that I had when I created them. Everything is so meaningful in some way that having it and holding it and like putting it somewhere in my room, it shows me that I've grown so much from that one space, and it's helped me kind of seeing it and like going back to it has helped me heal in a sense. Like I used to be super depressed when I was in like junior high and high school, and seeing my art from that time, I go, wow, look how far I've come. So I don't think I'd ever want to destroy any of the art that I've made unless it was like meant to be. You know what I mean?
In art therapy, you're with a therapist that you trust, and if it is triggering, you go at your own pace. You stop. Have you ever found that creating something is making you kind of relive that traumatic event or like re-stressing you out at any point during the creation process?
I think for me it's because the reason I picked up origami in the first place, it was right after I had a heart surgery. It went beautifully. But some things happened in recovery, and unfortunately, I had to stay at the children's hospital for another week. So one of my mom's friends got me a beginner's origami, a bunch of papers, and then I just started doing it and kind of. But sometimes nowadays, when I go and that's not where I learned how to make cranes. But if I do ever make things that aren't cranes, it kind of gives me PTSD back to when I was 10 years old. And it's like, I'm back in the hospital. No, Margot, you're not. But sometimes, when things get in your head. Yeah.
For myself, I'm not even sure. I mean, definitely like looking back at some of the stuff that I created, I get those little PTSD flashbacks. But I mean, I've made art like this before, and it wasn't really traumatizing or anything. I don't know. It's art for me growing up has been like always been this therapeutic thing. So I feel like looking back on it, it's not as like traumatizing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not just the paint, the paper, or the brushes. It's the way you're greeted like an old friend. The quiet comfort of knowing someone remembers your name and what you're working on. It's asking for advice and getting honesty, not upselling. It's the kind of place where your creativity and you feel safe. In the heart of Kensington, it's your friendly neighborhood art store. Visit sunnysideartsupplies.com.
So I had you gals, non-binary pals, I had you both kind of do something that kind of helps you with stress or like processing emotions. Margot, you did origami. Kira, you did a digital painting. I even did one myself. Did you want to we'll start with Margot and then we'll kind of just go this way. Margot, do you want to like explain what you were feeling when you were kind of making the cranes or,
Well, I already told you like how I started making the cranes.
Yeah.
Mostly when I was making these, I was hoping my dog wouldn't jump up on them. But like when I initially grabbed the piece of paper, I kind of feel like, okay, this is going to be for a classmate. This is going to be for his project. They need to be close to perfect. And if they're not, well, put that aside, put it on my desk later, and just try a different one.
This one was definitely, it was like this feeling of loneliness in a sense. I suffer from a lot of self-consciousness with my friends where I feel like they don't fully like me. And this was just one of the days where I was just not feeling the best. And it was kind of just, I'm in this weird spotlight. I was on air when I was doing this, so I was like, I'm in this spotlight where I could be experiencing this moment with friends being like supportive. And I felt like asking for that support was too much to do. So I didn't. And so this was just kind of like this. It was a very heavy feeling, and I knew that it was for your assignment, but it was definitely oh gosh, like I have to get this out of me. And it started off with like an idea of how I wanted the pose to be, and then I kind of liked, obviously, like I did not finish it in the sense of there's no line art because I liked the messy sketch more than I did for like a line art, anything like that. So, yeah, it's a messy piece for a very messy feeling.
I know I did mine after the conversation that we had. The conversation that we had where it was like, hey, I've noticed some behaviors of yours that aren't all that great. And I kind of just reflected on that. And it was the whole, like I'm trying to be a good person, but I know I do like bad things sometimes. And it's, am I a bad person that does good things sometimes, or am I a good person that does bad things sometimes? And it was one of those things where it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is, are you trying to be better than you were yesterday? Which is the whole conversation that I had with you, Margot, where I send you the Instagram message apologizing, and then even like apologizing to you because I made you feel bad. I have this piece of art that I make every year where it's just like, I'm trying to be a good person, but am I actually? And that goes into the thing that I do where every day I would draw what my mental state was. And it was, I kind of took a photo of the work in progress, but I liked the little kind of sketch lines that I was making in it, because it's just like, okay, this shows that this isn't a finished art piece, just like I'm not a finished person. And sooner or later, I don't think I'll ever be a finished piece, but that doesn't matter, because I think what I am right now is good enough. And that's really all that matters.
Words to live by.
Well, thank you both so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It was really nice getting like insights into, what you feel and how art in different forms has helped you.